Hello, my name is Rain and welcome to my channel where I discuss Fantasy Formula 1. The Chinese Grand Prix weekend has concluded and I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of things to say. But first, thank you so much for all the support over the past 2 weeks. I know everything hasn't been perfect. There have been videos with half the video being black. There have been audio issues, visual issues, but I'm back home finally. I traveled back from Australia yesterday. I'm still jet lagged, trying to get used to it. Normally, I would have a reaction video to the Grand Prix up sooner on the channel, but here it is. This is going to be my team selection video for the Japanese Grand Prix before we know a lot of critical information. So just know that this is very likely to change. I will have my weekend preview video out early next week, and then a final thoughts video out later on in the week once we are actually approaching the Japanese Grand Prix. And then, of course, the deadline stream will be back on Saturday morning before the qualifying, where I will finalize my teams as I always do on this channel. So if you want to know what my team actually ends up being, you need to follow me on Twitter or something like that, and also be here for the deadline stream. So do not miss that. Subscribe if you haven't. A lot of people that watch these videos aren't subscribed for some reason. If you don't like it in a month's time, you could always unsubscribe. It's, you know, it's free. You know this. You've been on YouTube for a decade now, at least. So subscribe to the channel, like the video. Let's talk about China. A lot of controversies this weekend, eh? Before we talk about the controversies, though, let's just quickly talk about my team, because my team did surprisingly well. I ended up activating the wild card, and I ended up going with a full budget building strategy, mainly for the reason that, well, we thought the budget building we thought the price change system worked a certain way. It turns out it's not the exact way it works. There is a new formula being, analyzed and whatever. I'm not going to make a video on that just yet because we will know guaranteed how the price change system works once we're beyond Japan, maybe after Bahrain, but at least by the latest after this upcoming triple header of Japan, Bahrain, and Saudi. So once we know 100% certain how it works, I'll make another budget guide price changes explained video, because the one I made previously, it is half correct, but it's not entirely correct. But if that had been correct, then it really felt like the time to budget build with your team was now. If you budget build later on, everything is going to be much more likely to increase in price. We're not sure, that might not be the case anymore, but I felt like I had to budget build now after the disaster that was the Australian GP weekend for my team, and I felt like, my points can't get any worse, so I might as well just give up some points now, get some budget going, try and get ahead of the curve while with wildcarding. A lot of people running Williams plus McLaren for the points. I can maybe get some extra budget on those teams now and then switch back after Japan. That was the plan with this team, which is why I went for 2 cheap constructors in Williams and Haas. I did not think we would be here at the start of the season, but alas, here we are. But it turned out to be a masterstroke. I mean, granted, it was quite lucky. If you watched the deadline stream or the team selection video last week, you will know that I was tinkering with Aston Martin and Kick Sauber instead of Haas. Williams was always in the plan. Haas ended up being miles beyond the others. Aston Martin decreased in price because of Alonso's brakes being on fire. Kick Sauber, I mean, they increased in price, but they didn't get any points. Haas performed like a premium constructor this week, with Ocon and Behrman picking up very, very good points, like in the actual championship as well. So Haas turned out to be a masterstroke, and the inheritance of the fastest lap by Lando Norris meant I also did not fall behind the Oscar Piastri teams. Oscar Piastri only ended up scoring 4 more points than what Lando Norris did, which is completely negligible. Obviously, unlucky that I sold Oscar Piastri when I had him the previous weekend, but I felt like, why not have Lando Norris when I have the option to? And if Lando Norris had a better sprint race and not fallen behind at the start, Lando would have actually outscored Piastri this week, which is kind of crazy and shows you how powerful the fastest lap is. And then, I mean, I completely avoided all the carnage, all the disqualification carnage, which is one of the biggest talking points of this weekend, right? I'm going to get to that in a moment. But for my team, it was fantastic. Like, from my rank, a lot of people around me obviously had 1, 2, or 3 of those assets, and I managed to avoid all of them. Got increased points on all my assets. I mean, Ocon got more points, Antonelli got more points, Albon got more points, Hulkenberg got more points, Williams got more points, Haas got more points. So all my assets, and Lando Norris got a boost of points after he got the fastest lap, and obviously he's my 2x. That's another 20 points on the board. So my entire team just gained infinite points, essentially, after the disqualification. So for my team, it was good. For the game, I don't think it was. So let's talk about it, right? Both Ferraris, Gasly, you already know by now, of course, disqualified. For, they were pretty stonewall disqualifications, right? Your car can't be underweight. Of course, you get disqualified for that. That's what happens when teams don't set up for a one-stopper and then end up doing it anyway, just praying that they have enough rubber on the tires. Turns out they don't, and they're underweight. The skid plank on Hamilton is something different entirely. Setup, mistake by Ferrari. Very, very awkward for Ferrari getting disqualified with both cars. For two different reasons as well. I mean, that shouldn't happen at all. I think the underweight one is embarrassing, but the skid plank as well on top of that is really unlucky. Combined though with the fact, like, obviously for the sport itself, it sucks for Ferrari. Disqualifications happen. It's whatever. For the game, it really showcases what's wrong with the game right now. Seeing people with 2x on Leclerc, 2x on Hamilton, with Gasly in their teams, with Ferrari as a constructor, they're gonna stop playing the game. Like, you get hit by that kind of point swing with, when you had your 2x on Hamilton, for example, combined with the Ferrari constructor, maybe even a Gasly in there, we're talking a 200 plus point swing for something that's completely out of your control. And also the fact that we all thought that disqualifications had been changed in the game, when really, like, they really haven't. I mean, they've been changed, but not for the better. It's a sideways change. What we thought at the start of the season, based on the thing that was written in the, like, this is what has changed with the game, we thought that, like, drivers would not get disqualification penalties. They would get 0 points, which, still would suck, but that would save you a bunch of points, especially on your 2x driver if they got disqualified, and as long as they don't go into the negatives, that changes a lot, actually. But turns out your drivers that get disqualified still get a DNF penalty of -20 for the race. So the difference is 5 points, and that point is just moved to a -30 to the constructor. So if you have both, literally nothing changed anyway. Maybe a bit because you didn't get the 2x. Point is, the change doesn't matter. You still lose 200 points when you have all of the assets. And I think the developers, I'm going to be honest, completely missed the mark. The change they wrote out on the website was a good change to limit the penalties, the heavy penalties of disqualifications, which, as a F1 fantasy strategist, are completely out of your realm of predictability. We thought they changed that for the better by just making them, the disqualified driver get 0 points. No, they still get -20. So the fact that they went back on that, they didn't even go back on that. They posted a clarification of the rule once they realized that everyone thought that, what they had written out is what we all, whatever. I'm rambling now. I'm ranting because I'm actually, like, kind of upset about this, because I know multiple people will quit the game over this, and it's really unfortunate because I think the game has so much potential as a fantasy sports game, right? Like, honestly, it is one of the highest potential games for fantasy sports around right now. Like, obviously something like Fantasy Premier League has obviously reached that potential, but in terms of, like, up and coming games, it's still relatively young as a game. It has so much potential, and I think the developers completely dropped the ball on this one. They should have done what we all thought they did, and once they realized that's what everyone thought they did, they should have just said, oh, that is what we did, and quickly change it. There's no reason a driver should get -20 points for getting disqualified for a car that's a kilo underweight. Come on. And I mean, we're not even talking about DNFs here. We're talking about disqualifications, which are rare. Like, they should not be that heavy swings. DNFs should not be heavy swings either, don't get me wrong. But man, they really dropped the ball with that one. And speaking of dropping the ball, Kimi Antonelli. So Kimi Antonelli is in my team. This is how you know I'm not biased, because my team greatly benefited from the disqualification. All of them. And Kimi Antonelli getting driver of the day, and Lando Norris getting fastest lap, 10 points. My team, particularly my team, was perfectly situated to gain points and reap the rewards of all of these negatives being thrown at other strategists out there. But I personally want what's best for the game. Obviously, I want a good score. But last week, I was the one who got screwed over, right? I got screwed over in Australia. Sure, I got something back here, but I know what it feels like when your team gets screwed over. Driver of the day, as a fan vote concept to engage casual audience, is completely fine. I don't care that Kimi Antonelli got driver of the day for like him being driver of the day, if you know what I mean. Driver of the day doesn't mean anything. Winning the race means something. Having a good race, scoring points is what matters. So driver of the day doesn't matter in that sense. But the fact that driver of the day is a fan vote and that it bears such heavy, like it means a lot in the fantasy game is frankly unbelievable. If this was 3 points, I could cast it aside because that is like a side thought. You know, 3 extra points, it's nice, but it's not insulting. It's not going to change the outcome of a weekend. It's not going to be significant enough. It's just there as a sort of, you know, sprinkle of extra cherry, the extra cherry on top. Now the driver of the day is the cream. Like it's not a cherry on top. It's the cream. It's like it's a half the cake. At fastest lap 2, I mean, you don't even get points for fastest lap anymore. And listen, just as how we get points for fastest pit stop, 5 points. Just reduce fastest lap to 5 points. Like even that is quite a lot. But why is it 10? Like 10 points, you cannot predict fastest lap anymore. You can't. Like you actually just can't. I mean, obviously, you know, it's probably gonna go to the McLarens because they're so good when their car gets light. So probably you should have the McLaren assets. But like driver of the day, you can't predict. No one could have predicted Antonelli. Literally no one. Ocon got P5 in a Haas, in a Haas that I and everyone else wrote off last weekend. Behrman, after coming off a terrible weekend in Melbourne, goes from P17 to P10 on the road, ending up with a P8 after disqualifications, right? Piastri winning from pole, his first ever pole position. Even Hamilton, you know, driver of the day in the sprint. Obviously, he got disqualified, so that doesn't apply anymore. But like, that overtake on Ocon, like, what did Antonelli do? Right, he got P8 on track, P6 in the end. He got overtaken by Ocon. He had floor damage. Like Leclerc driving with his you know, end plate off the entire race. Obviously, he got disqualified later, but that's fine. Even Lando Norris, like George Russell, P3 again. Half the grid deserved driver of the day over Kimi Antonelli, and this is no dig towards Kimi Antonelli. He drove a fine race, but I mean, he did get overtaken by Esteban Ocon. Apparently, he had floor damage, which, you know, that's fine. He managed the race fine. He got points, but he was not close to his teammate, like not necessarily at all. And that by that overtake from Ocon was absolutely baller. But why him? And why does it give 10 points in F1 Fantasy? This is a bit of a ranty one, because there's a lot of things that this weekend that just went wrong for the game as a whole. And I think it showcases both the strengths and the weaknesses of the game, because the game's fun, right? The game's good. It's perfect for, like, the sport is perfect for a fantasy game, but then you get slapped with negative 30 points times 2 on Ferrari. Like, you get slapped with negative 60 points, and suddenly you just feel like quitting. So I don't know. I'm disappointed. I'm gonna put this behind me. Look forward towards Japan. A lot of things to discuss in Japan as well. But man, what a start to F1 Fantasy 2025 this has been. It's been absolute chaos, absolute carnage, and we're just here left picking up the pieces. I have gotten to the point in my F1 Fantasy career. It's not a career, but, like, you know, how long I've been playing the game, that I don't get upset when my team, like, I get upset, but I don't let the results of my fantasy team dictate how I feel about the race weekend, because the you know, frankly, the Australian GP is one of the best races I've ever watched. I watched it live, right? It's probably the best season opener since, like, 2002, but it was terrible for my fantasy team. But I didn't let that influence my feelings about the race itself, and I feel like we just gotta, like, take it on the chin at this point. It's gonna be another season of massive negative scores and trying to avoid them. And I mean, that's just the game we're playing now, and hopefully they fix it and make it more fun for next year. But for now, this is the fun we're gonna have, and the fun is going to be trying to optimize as much as possible while dodging the landmines that the developers have laid out for us in our way. But I mean, overall, team performed incredibly well. A bunch of price increases across the board, and moving on to Japan, I am hopeful it can continue that way. So looking at the team then, we have a bunch of things to talk about going into Japan. First of all, I already briefly mentioned that the price change algorithm is not exactly what we thought it would be. And we kind of figured that out because a couple of the assets did not behave like we expected them to. Now, we don't know exactly how it works just yet. There are theories. If you want to read into them in detail, I highly recommend you join the F1 Fantasy Tools Discord, because they discuss it in great detail there, and there's an entire chat to read through if you want to get a headache in the evening or afternoon, whenever you watch this. So if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not going to discuss it yet. Just know that some of the assets did not behave like we expected them to. One of them being Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli increased 0.3 million, indicating that he is an A-tier asset, indicating to us that the cutoff for an A and B tier asset is actually 19 million, not 20 million. Feels random, but that's the way it is. For that reason, Kimi Antonelli, for me, at least, feels kind of useless. Because I could have just gone with George Russell, and George Russell got more points in China than what Antonelli did. And I would have picked Russell over Antonelli had I known that Antonelli was not a B-tier asset. Because the point of picking Kimi Antonelli was to try and ride, because he had such a good result in Melbourne. The goal of Kimi Antonelli was to ride those price increases, 1.2 million, 0.6 plus 0.6 over China and Japan, until he reached 20 million and then offload him. Now I see no reason in keeping him whatsoever. Not that he's not good, he got driver of the day, but he got saved by the driver of the day. Without that, he would have been on a below average, I'd say, points haul for a sprint weekend. So Kimi Antonelli, nothing inherently wrong with him. It's just when I can afford Russell, I see no reason to have Kimi Antonelli over George Russell. Is that the move I'm going to make with the money I have in the bank? I'm not sure, but it is a move I could make. The plan all along with this team, because obviously the highest scoring team of this week was the Oscar Piastri build, right? Oscar Piastri plus Williams, or like if you had Haas plus McLaren, it was better, obviously, but a lot of people ran Oscar Piastri plus Williams plus McLaren, and that outscored my team, even though I was very lucky in avoiding disqualifications. And I feel like the McLaren constructor already showing, especially early on in the season before upgrades are brought, that they are the team to beat, both on track and in F1 Fantasy. So I feel like you kind of need to have them, and I feel like their pick percentage is really beginning to show that a lot of people are moving towards them. I am falling behind the people who do have them. Still, for me, the plan is to stick with that for one more race. The reason for that is because it's going to be very easy for me to move into McLaren after Japan. So the goal now for Japan, for me at least, is to gain the most budget as possible. Albon was another one who didn't perform like we thought he would. The cutoff was higher than what it appeared to be, meaning that he only increased 0.2 million instead of the 0.6 that we all thought and wanted him to. Again, how the new system works, it is close to what I described in the video I made, but it's not entirely correct. So Alex Albon doesn't look like a guarantee to rise in price anymore. Especially not 0.6 million. So for that reason, he might be the one that I offload. At least Kimi Antonelli, with his points that he scored, is almost certainly increasing the maximum 0.3 million. So Albon could change, Antonelli could change. To what? Well, I'm trying this week to only use one transfer so that I can more easily move to a McLaren build after Japan. The way I would move to a McLaren build, the easiest, right, is to go for Oscar Piastri plus McLaren, and then, I mean, instead of Kimi Antonelli, just literally have anyone else. Let's just for now say that it's Lance Stroll, because Lance Stroll has had 2 good weekends in a row. He looks due a price rise. Maybe he's the one I buy for either Albon or Kimi Antonelli. So something like this, definitely affordable, probably good for budget, and better for points than the Norris variant. Just getting McLaren in there. But the long-term goal is to reach a state where I can afford something like this. And you can see here the problem I run into. This is 0.0 million. But with a bit of luck, these bottom assets here are going to keep decreasing in price. Let's sort by value. Already, Bortoleto and Hadjar are at 4.8 and 5 million. I would be surprised if Bortoleto or Hadjar, unless they have an amazing weekend, were to increase in price in Japan. And if so, would decrease another 0.6 million. And in that instance, I mean, Bortoleto is 4.2 million. We don't know what the floor is. We assume that the floor is higher than 0 million. We suspect if it's like it was previously, the floor would be 4 million. So that's the lowest an asset can go before they stop dropping in price. But at that price, I'm not that far off. Especially if I were to downgrade again Stroll and run something like Bortoleto and Hadjar. You can see if both Hadjar and Bortoleto were to decrease 0.6 million in the next race, I would be able to afford this. So I think this is the sort of team I want to build, and I'm not that far away from it once I start not caring about budget changes sometime post-Japan. For now, though, the plan with my team is to stick it out with Williams and Haas for one more race, and only use one transfer in Japan to change my team. As for Norris, Ocon, and Hulkenberg, they're not leaving. Hulkenberg, because I could see myself holding Hulkenberg for a long time, and the points that he scored in Australia means that I think as long as he gets a positive score, he should increase in price, even with the new price change algorithm that we suspect is the one that they're actually going with. Similarly, Ocon, 24 points in China is absolutely massive. He's not going anywhere. Norris, because I think he's going to score a lot of points, still really fast. He's going to be my 2x driver of choice, and I'll downgrade him after China as part of my 3 free transfers. Then, or after Japan, sorry, as part of my 3 free transfers. So for now, he's staying in. Williams and Haas, probably not going anywhere, especially not Haas after the 47 points haul they got. They can have a DNF in Japan and still increase the maximum. Williams, bit more on the edge, could be downgraded, but I don't really see an option that's that much better than them. Maybe Racing Bulls after their good score in China, but do I really want to go for Racing Bulls or Kick Sauber? I'm not so sure. I think I'll probably just stick with Williams, if I'm honest. So that leaves Albon and Antonelli. I think both decent option for points. Albon is doing great things in that Williams. It's just that he is not guaranteed to increase 0.6 million, and I kind of need him to if this build is to work. Whereas someone like a Stroll is more guaranteed to increase. So like downgrading Albon to Stroll would be a benefit to my team in the way I'm trying to play it in Japan. The last option is then Antonelli, which can go up to a George Russell, which looks good, not for budget necessarily, but like George Russell is going to increase 0.3 million. And I mean, points-wise, he's matching, dare I say, like matching Max Verstappen in performance right now. Obviously, Max Verstappen is doing more with a bad car, if we think the Red Bull is as bad as it is. But like in terms of he's just there always, P2, starting on the front row, finishing P3, only the McLaren seem, faster. Russell's just had a great start to the season, and then looking back to the end of last year as well, he's continuing a really, really good run of form. So I really like Russell as an option. The last option then is the new kid on the block, because if you haven't seen it, I mean, you have seen it, it's everywhere. It's rumored or, bar confirmed that Red Bull are switching Tsunoda and Liam Lawson already. I could have a 40-minute rant about just that. But F1 fantasy-wise, this means a couple of things. We presume that both Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson will be given new assets. What that means is that if you have Liam Lawson, the Red Bull Racing variant, or if you have Yuki Tsunoda, the V-Carb variant, they will be inactive, meaning that you'll lose points for them, meaning that you'll have to trade them out. That is one option. The other option is if you have Yuki Tsunoda for 8.4 million, they just slap Liam Lawson's face and name on it, and you now have Liam Lawson in your team at 8.4 million. Similarly with Yuki Tsunoda for Liam Lawson, and you just have Yuki Tsunoda at 16.8 million. How that would work with the previous scores from the assets, I don't know. Liam Lawson, all things considered, did not have a bad point score in China because he started 20th both in the race and in the sprint. So we don't know how it's going to work budget-wise, which is the problem for me, because anything below 19 million is where we think the cutoff is for a B-tier asset, meaning that Yuki Tsunoda at 16.8 million is a B-tier asset. That is very appealing to someone like me who's trying to build budget, but since we don't know if they're going to go off of Yuki Tsunoda's, previous point scores in Australia and China, which are not that great, especially not if you factor in the new PPM, or if they're going to go for the Lawson scores, which again doesn't seem great for PPM purposes, or if they're going to completely reset it and start it from scratch because it's a new asset. We don't know. There's a lot of things we don't know about it, and that unknown quantity of it makes me less likely to go for it, even if Yuki Tsunoda looks like a good option at 16.8 million for that one race I would be running him in. With that said, though, do not make any transfers early. I cannot stress this enough. I've already seen people on Twitter buy Yuki Tsunoda at 8.4 million, thinking that they're going to get a Yuki Tsunoda at Red Bull Racing for 8.4 million once they change him, or gain a magical 10 million, budget increase because they already had Yuki Tsunoda as an asset. That's not how it works. Either your V-Carb Yuki Tsunoda is going to be inactive and you need to get in, you have to spend another transfer getting them out, or it's automatically going to replace, your Yuki Tsunoda asset with a Liam Lawson asset for the same price. We don't know how it works. We think it's one of those. I would be surprised if it's not one of those. So don't make any transfers yet. Wait and see. And even then, are you sure that Yuki Tsunoda is going to perform well in that Red Bull? Or is he also going to have a Q1 exit? If he does have a Q1 exit, is that going to be good for his fantasy points, his F1 fantasy points potential? We'll see. Liam Lawson had a decent point score in China, but considering he's on a P20 in both, I think they're quite underwhelming. We probably should have seen more from him, if I'm honest. If that was Max Verstappen, starting P20 in both those races, he would have, broken barriers with the amount of points that he scored. So for that reason, that is an avoid for me right now, meaning that I'm leaning more towards the George Russell, or the Kimi Antonelli upgrade to George Russell, or the Alex Albon downgrade to something like a Lance Stroll. The reason why I'm not upgrading Alex Albon to Carlos Sainz is because Carlos Sainz has... Don't buy Carlos Sainz yet. He needs to write off that Australia DNF before he's ever an option. And right now, Albon is better suited than him for price increases. So I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Carlos Sainz is going to decrease another 0.6 million. I was correct in calling him the trap at the start of this season. So that's most of what I want to discuss for my team. I know it's not very conclusive, but you have my goals, right? My goals for my team is to gain budget for one more race and then do the swap in assets to get McLaren and Piastri in there for probably Norris, Antonelli, and then either Williams or Haas. We'll see though if that ends up being the play, if I have to take -10s for it, or if I want to go for Yuki Tsunoda already, downgrade Antonelli to Yuki Tsunoda. We'll see what happens. For now though, I think the plan is to wait and see what they do with the Yuki Tsunoda Liam Lawson situation in F1 Fantasy when they do something about that. And until then, channel will be kind of quiet, I think. We'll just wait and see. I have the new budget guide video in the works, but obviously want to wait and see it confirmed 100% in the game before I make any more assumptions, even from the educated people in the F1 Fantasy Tools Discord. So yeah, next week we'll be talking hopefully about the Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda switch. Hopefully they've done that relatively soon, but they also have to wait for the official announcement. It's actually not official yet. So until then, I will be unpacking my things, doing all the washing, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. If you still stayed all the way to the end, thank you. I'll see you in the next one.